but deteriorating sentiment in and towards South Africa appears not to have had any negative effect on the residential property market. Meanwhile, property buyers from the rest of Africa are upping their buying in the local market. John Loos is household and property sector strategist at FNB Asset Finance. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Erika.
Of course, this was based on a survey for the third quarter, probably well before we've seen the effects of the strikes and what it's meant for sentiment and investor confidence.
Yeah, look, I must add that the residential market isn't exactly setting the world alight as it is. House price growth slowed a little bit to 5% year on year in the September numbers. But that's more to do, that's just tracking the global economic cycles. And we've had a weaker period during the winter than we did have in summer in terms of economic growth. So it's more really about that. When you look at sentiment factors, foreign and local sentiment regarding the developments that have played out over the last few months, the widespread strike action, service delivery protests are pretty widespread. And there has been, I think, some increase in negative perceptions towards South Africa. Then you look more at things like immigration-related selling, for one. Are more people packing for Perth? Interestingly enough, the survey was done in August, so yes, there is the next one being done in November, so we'll watch that number closely. But interestingly enough, the immigration-related selling actually dropped to its lowest level, further from 4% of total selling to 3%. So no sign yet. The low immigration-related selling does also have something to do with the fact that a lot of the immigration destinations, which South Africans love, aren't exactly offering great job prospects at the moment either. And then you look at foreign buying, that can be also possible indicator. And there we have had some decline in the percentage of total buying that's foreign buying from 4% to 3%. As yet, though, a little bit too early. If that carries on declining, we may be onto something, but as yet too soon to say.
And John, these numbers are small, 4%, 3%, so it's difficult to draw any conclusions, as you're implying, from such small shifts. Going back to immigration, 3% of total sales in the third quarter, that looks pretty good compared with our recent history when I think must have been at the time of the Eskom crisis, everyone was phoning their immigration agents.
Absolutely, yeah. Early 2008, somewhere around there, it reached somewhere around 20% estimate according to our agent survey. I mean, that was dismal. So a much improved situation, but again, it might ironically be because of a weak global economy not offering job prospects. Nevertheless, long may it last. Hopefully it stays low, but we'll be watching that number in the next quarter or two to see if there's any increase that could possibly hint at a deterioration in sentiment.
What's your feeling? Presumably there are quite long lags between an event, a sort of socio-economic political event, and reaction in the property market.
Well, that spike at 20% in 2008, I remember some adverse political events, the detail escapes me now, early that year, and there was the Eskom crisis, and the spike came quite quickly, so probably a quarter or two, so it didn't take that long. So we'll, if there is any deterioration in sentiment in the property market towards South Africa, I think we'd pick it up within the next quarter or two, possibly.
Now, the other interesting matter that you do pick up in your survey is investors from the rest of Africa buying into South Africa and truly just upping their stake, continuing to see prospects here.
Yeah, that's a change which I think is going to carry on. Our latest survey, about 21% of total foreign buyers, now African buyers. That has increased substantially in recent years. And I think more of one's likely to see even more of that. European countries aren't going to be major growth economies for some time, I suspect. So, household sector financial pressure in those traditional foreign buying sources for us might be depressed for a while. Whereas Africa, on the other hand, is growing off a low base, but growing very strongly. That means wealth creation growing very strongly. So I think that's what we'll see, is African-driven foreign buying of local property in South Africa increasing quite dramatically in years to come.
And always good for us because it's a strengthening of those relationships, the interrelatedness with the other African countries, and also therefore implying growth opportunities, business opportunities for South Africans.
Well, yes, I mean, I think South Africa's biggest growth constraint, the biggest of all, not labour laws and things, it's actually the fact that we are so isolated from major markets. Gives us a real lack of business and trade opportunities. This changes the whole game. If Africa is to carry on growing at the current pace, in years to come we'll have a lot more economic opportunities much closer to our doorstep. And so long may it last.